My name is Nia, 36 years old, and this is the night I walked out of the most expensive birthday dinner in Las Vegas and cut my entire family off forever. We were at Le Cirque inside Bellagio private room, 60 guests, $10,000 flower arrangements, champagne older than my kids. My adoptive father's 75th birthday, my daughter Riley, 10, and my son Mason, 8, were stuck at the little side table nobody wanted to look at. Their plates completely empty. Not one bite. Because my adoptive mother had already told the chef no kids menu for the auxiliary table. Then she raised her glass in front of everyone and said loud and clear, "Real son and real grandkids eat first. Her kids can wait for leftovers if they're lucky." My adoptive brother Brandon smirked and added, "They should know their place in this family by now. Don't ruin Dad's birthday." Some guests actually laughed. Phones came out. My daughter's lip trembled. My son just stared at the empty plate like he did something wrong. I didn't make a scene. I didn't say a word. I stood up, picked up both my children, and walked out past the chandeliers, past the fountain, past the slot machines ringing like nothing had happened. 22 minutes later, the same people who laughed would be screaming my name for a totally different reason. If you've ever been treated like you don't belong in your own family, drop your story in the comments where, when, and what you did. Like, share, and keep watching because you're about to see exactly what I did in those 22 minutes. I stepped out of Le Cirque, and the casino noise hit me like a wall slot machine, screaming roulette wheels, spinning drunk laughter bouncing off marble floors. The air smelled of money and desperation. I carried both kids, one on each hip, their little bodies heavier than usual because they hadn't eaten since the airplane peanuts that morning. The private elevator to the 42nd floor was waiting. Gold walls, soft jazz, the kind of quiet that costs extra. As soon as the doors closed, Riley's head dropped against my shoulder. Mason was already snoring. I felt their ribs through their clothes, and something inside me snapped clean in half. Our suite door clicked shut behind us. I laid them on the king bed in the second bedroom, pulled off their dress shoes, covered them with the plush Bellagio robe because it was the softest thing in reach. They didn't stir. I walked straight to the living room, knees shaking under me, and dragged my carry-on from the closet. Black leather portfolio, the one I never let out of my sight on family trips. I started carrying it 5 years ago after I caught Brandon going through my purse in the guest room back in Cleveland. I learned fast anything valuable stays with me. I unzipped it on the coffee table. Inside every single document I had signed for them since I was 22. Birth certificates. They made me keep tax forms. They needed my signature on loan guarantees. 529 contribution records. All of it. I sat on the sofa, opened my MacBook, and looked at the clock on the screen. 9:24 p.m. exactly. 22 minutes. That was how long my children had sat staring at empty plates while 60 adults pretended not to see. 22 years. That was how long I had let these people use me. I decided right then they get exactly 22 minutes of my life left. Not 1 second more. I started with the banking app. 2 college savings accounts, one for Colton, one for Brooklyn. I was listed as the sole account owner and custodian from the day they were born. They had never contributed a single dollar. I had. Every bonus, every raise, every time I skipped vacation to work overtime, I poured it in there because family takes care of family. I logged in, requested full withdrawal on both accounts. Penalty be damned. The money would hit my checking account by morning. Next, the mortgage portal for the penthouse on the 55th floor of the same hotel we were sleeping in tonight. Dennis bought it 3 years ago to impress his country club friends. My credit score was the only one high enough to co-sign the jumbo loan. I still had the original guarantee agreement scanned in my cloud drive. I opened the PDF, typed a short withdrawal letter, signed it, with the stylus attached it to the bank's secure message center. Sent. The personal guarantee was gone the moment they received it. Last, the recurring transfer I set up for Brandon after his divorce. $4,200 every first of the month, so he could keep the lakefront loft in Cleveland and focus on the kids. I opened the bill pay section, found the scheduled payment, clicked cancel. All future transfers confirmed twice. Done. I closed the laptop, leaned back, and stared at the ceiling. My hands weren't even shaking anymore. They felt steady, clean. The strip glittered 38 floors below a river of red and gold lights that suddenly looked cheap. I thought about the black portfolio still open on the table, all those signatures I had given away like a fool, and I realized something that should have been obvious years ago. They never adopted me. They acquired me, and acquisitions can be liquidated. I stood up, walked to the bedroom door, and watched my real family sleep. Riley had kicked the robe off. Mason was curled into a ball. I pulled the blanket higher over them and whispered the first promise I had ever made that I knew I would keep. No one will ever make you wait for scraps again. Then I set an alarm for 9:46 p.m. Exactly. 22 minutes. Starting now. I opened the black portfolio, and the very first document on top was the adoption decree, yellowed at the edges, now signed by Dennis and Gloria, the week I turned 14. I still remember the courthouse hallway smelling like bleach, the social worker handing me a teddy bear someone donated, and Gloria telling me, "From now on, you call us Mom and Dad. That's the deal." 4 years later, I graduated high school early and took the first full-time job I could find, data entry at an insurance company in downtown Cleveland. I was 18. My paycheck hit the joint account they opened in my name the same week. Gloria sat me down at the kitchen table with 2 brand new 529 plan applications. Colton was 6 months old. Brooklyn was still in the womb. "You're the responsible one," she said. "Put your money in these. It's for your little brother's kids." That's what family does. I signed as account owner and custodian on both. They never added a cent. By 23, I had climbed to junior analyst and finally moved into my own apartment. That same month, Brandon's wife walked out and took half his savings with her. He showed up drunk at 2 in the morning, crying about private school tuition he couldn't afford anymore. Gloria called me the next day. "If you love us, you'll help. You make good money now." So I set up monthly transfers straight from my paycheck to Hawkins School in Gates Mills. $12,000 a year times 2 kids. I told myself it was temporary. At 26, I got promoted again, senior financial analyst, 6-figure bonus for the first time. Dennis decided that was the year he deserved a second home. He found a penthouse on the 55th floor of the Waldorf Astoria residences right here on the Strip. $7.2 million. The bank laughed at his credit. Mine was spotless. We flew to Vegas for a long weekend so I could see the view. Gloria took me to the sales office, handed me the guarantee papers, and said, "You wouldn't let your dad lose his dream, would you?" I signed. They put the keys in his hand and my name on the hook for the mortgage if anything ever went wrong. After that, it never stopped. New roof on the Cleveland house, $28,000, my Christmas bonus. Brandon's DUI lawyer, $11,000. Gloria's little procedure in Beverly Hills, $34,000. Colton's travel hockey team that played tournaments in Sweden, $9,000 a season. Brooklyn's equestrian lessons and the horse they leased in her name, $6,000 a month. Every time the story was the same: "You're the only one who can. You owe us for giving you a family." I paid. I always paid. I skipped my own vacations, worked weekends, took the red-eye flight so I could be back Monday morning. I told myself gratitude has no price tag. I told myself blood doesn't matter. Love does. I told myself one day they would see me the same way they saw Brandon and his kids. They never did. I kept every receipt, every bank statement, every canceled check. I built a shadow ledger in a password-protected folder titled Taxes. Year after year, the numbers grew. 40,000 here, 19,000 there. Another 50 when Brandon decided he needed a Range Rover so the kids would fit in. I watched the total cross 100,000, then 150, then 200. I never let myself add it all the way up. Until tonight. I pulled the spreadsheet onto the screen I had been updating in secret for 8 years. Column after column of dates, descriptions, amounts. I scrolled to the bottom and let the formula finally do its job. $218,000. Exactly. That was the price of the family I thought I had. I stared at the final number until the digits blurred. Then I closed the portfolio, slid it back into the safe, and locked it. For the first time in 22 years, I wasn't going to add another line. The elevator doors slid open on the restaurant level, and I stepped out holding 2 plates of Wagyu ribeye, still sizzling from the kitchen, the most expensive item on the menu at $160 a portion. I had walked straight to the expediting station, looked the executive chef in the eye, and said, "2 of those right now for my children." He didn't argue. I carried them back into Le Cirque like I was bringing evidence into court. The private room went quieter than I thought possible for 60 people. Silverware stopped moving. Someone's champagne flute froze halfway to their lips. Gloria spotted me first. Her face tightened. "Put those back," she ordered, voice low but sharp enough to cut glass. "Children don't eat 160 steaks. Take them away." Brandon leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, and let out that same smug chuckle he'd perfected since middle school. "Yeah, Nia," he said loud enough for the whole room. "Real son and real grandkids eat first. Her kids can wait for leftovers if they're lucky. They should know their place in this family by now. Don't ruin Dad's birthday." A couple of Dennis's golf buddies snickered. One woman actually lifted her phone. I ignored all of them and walked straight to the small side table where Riley and Mason were sharing. I set the plates down in front of them. The smell of butter and rosemary rose between us like a shield. Riley's eyes went wide. Mason just stared like he couldn't believe food was finally real. I pulled out the chair between them and sat. "Tell me what happened this afternoon," I said, calm, looking only at my kids. "From the beginning." Riley swallowed hard. "When we got here, they told us the big table was for blood family only. Grandma said we had to sit here and wait until everybody else was finished." Mason picked it up, voice small. "They brought us water but no bread. Then Aunt Cheryl tried to give me a roll and Grandma told her not to because we hadn't earned it yet." I felt every phone in the room turn toward us. "Good. Let them record." I turned to the main table. 60 faces pretending they weren't hanging on every word. "So let me make sure I understand," I said, voice perfectly level. "You flew my children 3,000 miles, put us up in your hotel, made them dress up, and then told the kitchen not to feed them unless they were real grandkids." Dennis cleared his throat, face red from wine and embarrassment. "Nia, honey, it's my birthday." "It is," I cut in. "And my children haven't eaten since breakfast on the plane because your wife decided starvation was a good lesson in gratitude." Gloria's mouth opened, closed, opened again. "That's not—" "I was teaching them manners." Brandon rolled his eyes. "Jesus, always the victim." I looked at Riley. "Did Grandma tell you why your plates were empty?" She nodded, tears spilling now. She said Colton and Brooklyn come first because they carry the family name. We don't. A murmur rippled across the tables. Someone whispered, "That's cold." I reached over and cut Mason's steak into perfect bite-sized pieces, then did the same for Riley. I placed the forks in their hands. "Eat," I told them softly, slowly. "Enjoy every single bite you paid for." Then I stood up, smoothed my dress, and looked straight at Gloria. "You just taught my kids the most valuable lesson they'll ever learn from you," I said. "And it didn't cost me a penny." Brandon started to stand. "You ungrateful," I didn't let him finish. I simply took Riley's hand, then Mason's, and walked them between the tables. Past the crystal, past the ice sculptures, past every person who had laughed or looked away. Nobody tried to stop us. The last thing I heard before the doors closed was Dennis muttering, "Let her go, she'll cool off," and Gloria snapping back, She'll be begging to come back by morning. I didn't look back once. The suite door clicked shut and the world outside disappeared. The casino roar, the clinking glasses, the fake laughter. Everything vanished the moment the lock engaged. I stood there for a long second with my back pressed to the door, feeling the vibration of the bass from the nightclub 38 floors below travel through the wood into my spine. Riley's hand was still in my left, Mason's in my right. Their fingers were freezing. I walked them down the short hallway to the second bedroom, turned the dimmer switch until the light was soft gold, and lifted each child onto their own king bed. Riley kicked off her patent shoes without prompting. Mason wrestled his tie loose and let it drop to the carpet. There were grease spots on Riley's dress from the steak butter, a smear of mashed potatoes on Mason's sleeve. I didn't care. I pulled the thick duvet up to their necks, tucked the edges around their small bodies the way I used to do when they were toddlers, and watched their faces go slack almost instantly. Full bellies and absolute safety. Those two things can knock a child out faster than any medicine. When their breathing had settled into the slow rhythm of real sleep, I slipped back into the living room and knelt in front of the safe embedded in the closet wall. I punched in the code I had chosen the minute we checked in Riley's birthday, followed by Mason's. Inside lay one object, a matte black USB drive the size of my thumb, no markings, no keychain, nothing to make it look important to anyone else. I bought it 10 years ago after Brandon swore he would pay me back next month for the $5,000 bail I posted when he wrapped his BMW around a mailbox. Gloria had taken me aside that night and said, "Family doesn't keep score, Nia." That was the moment I started keeping score in secret. I carried the drive to the marble desk that overlooked the strip, plugged it in, and watched the encrypted folder appear. Password, the exact date and time my parents died down to the minute on the police report. The master spreadsheet opened instantly. Thousands of rows. Every transfer, every check, every Venmo labeled family help. Every Zelle with a heart emoji that meant nothing. I had added new entries religiously, but I had never allowed the total cell to calculate. I was terrified the final number would prove I was the fool they always treated me as. Tonight, I stopped protecting them from the truth. Tonight, I stopped protecting myself from it. I scrolled to the very bottom of column D, clicked the empty cell beneath the last entry, and typed the simplest formula in the world. Sum D2 D4921. I pressed Enter. 218 412 67. The cursor blinked next to the number like it was daring me to feel something. I felt everything at once. I saw the overtime shifts I worked instead of taking Riley to her first ballet recital. I saw the vacation fund I drained when Brooklyn needed braces right away. I saw the engagement ring I never bought myself because Colton's travel hockey team had a tournament in Stockholm. $218,000. Plus compound growth in the 529 plans, plus the $250,000 in equity I was personally liable for on the penthouse upstairs. I leaned back in the leather chair and let the tears come. They were hot, silent, and surprisingly few. My shoulders shook once, then stilled. My hands stayed perfectly steady on the desk. The crying wasn't grief anymore. It was the sound of chains hitting the floor. I looked toward the bedroom. Riley had rolled onto her stomach, one arm dangling off the edge. Mason had burrowed so deep only a tuft of dark hair showed above the duvet. They looked impossibly small in beds that cost more per night than most people make in a week. I made them a promise right then out loud, even though they couldn't hear me. No one will ever make you wait for scraps again. Not while I'm still breathing. I wiped my face with the sleeve of my dress, took the deepest breath I had taken in 22 years, and opened 3 new tabs on the laptop. First tab, Vanguard 529 portal, both accounts already logged in, because I never log out on trips. Too risky. Second tab, the mortgage servicing site for the Waldorf penthouse guarantee documents already bookmarked. Third tab, my Chase checking account bill pay section loaded and waiting. I placed my fingers on the trackpad and felt something shift inside my chest, something heavy and final clicking into place. Tonight ends the debt I never owed. Tonight begins the life they can never touch again. I glanced one last time at my sleeping children at the Las Vegas lights painting gold across their peaceful faces, and I started typing. 9:46 p.m. The laptop clock flipped to the exact minute I had been waiting for. I didn't hesitate. First account Colton's 529. I was the sole owner, sole contributor, sole beneficiary if anything happened to the kid. Nevada and federal law gave me unrestricted access. I clicked full withdrawal, non-qualified, typed the reason, change in family circumstances selected, transfer to owner's checking account, confirmed the $187.312 balance, and hit submit. A green banner appeared, request received. Funds available in 1-2 business days. Penalty and taxes would hit next April. I didn't care. Second account Brooklyn's 529. Same process, same rights, same result. $179,887 vanished from their future and landed in my control in 43 seconds. I closed Vanguard and opened the mortgage portal for the Waldorf Astoria Residence's penthouse. The guarantee document I had signed 3 years ago was still bookmarked. I downloaded the latest version, opened it in preview, typed today's date, and added a single paragraph at the bottom, notice of immediate withdrawal of personal guarantee effective upon receipt. Guarantor is no longer liable for any existing or future obligations related to loan. WA55197LV. I signed it with the stylus exported as PDF, attached it to the bank's secure message center addressed to the senior loan officer I had met during closing. Subject line urgent, withdrawal of guarantee, Nia. Last name, sent. Timestamp 9:48 p.m., 1 minute left. Last tab, Chase Bank bill pay. I found the recurring transfer labeled Brandon, rent assistance. $4,200 every first of the month since his divorce 6 years ago. I clicked the payment, scrolled to cancel all future payments, confirmed twice, then opened the memo field and typed a new scheduled payment for next month 0.01 with the note, final courtesy notice. Assistance terminated. That way, he would see it. Then I went to the property management portal for his lakefront loft in the Terminal Tower Residences, downtown Cleveland. I still had access because I had set up the original lease. I downloaded the early termination of subsidy letter template, filled in the unit number, checked the box third-party sponsor withdrawing support, signed it electronically, and emailed it directly to the leasing office and to Brandon's tenant file. They would lock him into market rent starting the first of next month, $800 instead of the $2,600 I had been covering. I looked at the clock, 9:49 p.m. and 14 seconds. 3 actions, 3 lifetimes of resentment. Less than 4 minutes. I closed every tab, ejected nothing, there was nothing left to eject, and shut the laptop lid. The room fell into the soft glow of the city bleeding through the curtains. For the first time since I was 14 years old, no one owned any part of me. I walked to the bedroom doorway and leaned against the frame. Riley had kicked the duvet half off. Mason was sprawled sideways, 1 foot sticking out. I memorized the site my real family safe fed, and finally free. I pulled my phone from the charger, turned on Do Not Disturb, and blocked every number I had memorized since childhood. Dennis, Gloria, Brandon, the joint family group chat, even Aunt Cheryl, just in case she decided to play peacemaker tomorrow. Then I crawled onto the massive bed between my kids, still in my dress shoes, kicked off somewhere in the living room. Riley instinctively rolled toward me and flung an arm across my waist. Mason burrowed into my other side without waking. I lay there in the dark, listening to the quiet hum of the air conditioning and the soft rhythm of their breathing, and I felt the last chain snap. Tomorrow they would wake up to screaming phone calls and frantic text messages, and a penthouse they could no longer afford, and college funds that no longer existed, and a rent bill that would bankrupt Brandon before Labor Day. Tonight, my children slept like nothing in the world could ever hurt them again, because nothing ever would. I closed my eyes and for the first time in 22 years fell asleep without bracing for the next demand. The first blade of Las Vegas sunlight sliced through the gap in the blackout curtains and landed across my face. I opened my eyes to Riley's hair in my mouth and Mason's foot in my ribs. For 3 full seconds, I didn't remember where we were. Then I did, and I smiled. My phone face down on the nightstand was vibrating itself toward the edge. I reached over and flipped it. 97 missed calls, 43 new texts, all from the same 4 numbers I had blocked last night. I left it on silent. Room service arrived at 8 sharp pancakes shaped like Mickey Mouse extra bacon chocolate milk in glass bottles. The kids ate on the floor in their pajamas while cartoons played. I drank coffee and watched the city wake up 38 floors below. At 8:17, the first official domino fell. An email from Hawkins School subject line in bold red urgent, outstanding balance. Colton in Brooklyn, last name, $38.421, due in full within 10 calendar days, or both students would be withdrawn immediately. No payment plan, no exceptions. The finance office had already tried to pull from the linked checking account I used to fund everything. It came back insufficient. Of course it did. I had moved every dollar last night. I forwarded the email to trash and kept sipping coffee. At 8:34, my phone rang from an unknown Nevada number. I answered on speaker while buttering Riley's second pancake. A polite but firm man from the bank introduced himself as Senior Vice President of Jumbo Loan Servicing. He was calling Mr. Dennis, last name, regarding the Waldorf penthouse. The personal guarantee had been withdrawn effective immediately. A new qualified guarantor or full payoff was required within 90 days, or foreclosure proceedings would begin. He was very much regretted the inconvenience. I said nothing. The kids didn't even look up from their cartoons. At 8:49, the suite phone rang, the one hardwired into the wall that only hotel staff ever use. The front desk apologized profusely. A guest named Brandon, last name, was in the private elevator lobby creating a disturbance and refusing to leave. Security had already escorted him out once at 7 this morning. He was back louder. Did I want them to involve Las Vegas Metro? I told them. Yes, please, and thank you for the discretion. 2 minutes later, I heard muffled shouting through the door, then the ding of the elevator, then silence. At 9:12, the suite phone rang again. This time, it was Gloria, somehow patched through by the operator before they realized who she was. Her voice cracked between tears and rage. Nia, pick up the damn phone. You think you can destroy your father's legacy overnight. You think we won't sue you for every penny. You were nothing when we took you in. Nothing. I let her scream until the line clicked dead. The kids never noticed. At 9:27, a new number I didn't recognize lit up the screen. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something made me answer. Nia, it's Aunt Cheryl, the only person in that entire family who had ever slipped me a $100 bill for gas when Gloria wasn't looking. The only one who texted happy birthday every year without fail. I saw the videos, she said quietly. 3 different guests posted them last night. The whole room heard what my sister said to your babies. I stayed silent. I just wired the last 20 grand I was saving for Gloria's 60th birthday cruise straight into your Venmo, she continued. And I blocked her number. I'm done funding her cruelty. You take care of those kids, and take care of yourself. She hung up before I could say thank you. I set the phone down, walked to the window and pulled the curtains all the way open. The desert sun flooded the suite, turning everything gold. Riley ran over and pressed her syrup-sticky hand to the glass. Mommy, can we go see the fountain today? I knelt, wiped her fingers with a napkin, and kissed the top of her head. Baby, we can do whatever we want today. And for the first time in my entire life, I meant it. 10 months after that 75th birthday disaster, the fallout had settled into something quiet and irreversible. Dennis and Gloria lost the Waldorf penthouse to foreclosure in early spring. The bank auctioned it off for $2 million under asking. They poured every dime from the forced sale of the Shaker Heights house into the remaining mortgage gap and still came up short. The moving trucks took the last of their furniture while neighbors pretended not to watch from behind curtains. Brandon missed the final tuition deadline at Hawken. The school expelled Colton and Brooklyn the same week his landlord changed the locks on the terminal tower loft. 2 months later, Cuyahoga County Family Court awarded temporary full custody to his ex-wife because he couldn't prove stable housing. He moved into a studio above a bar in Ohio City and stopped answering the family group chat entirely. I filed the paperwork in Mecklenburg County, North Carolina, the week we closed on our new 4-bedroom house in the Baxter Village area of Fort Mill, just across the state line from Charlotte. Riley's new legal name became Riley Grace Carter. Mason became Mason James Carter. My name, too, went back to the one my real mother gave me. The judge signed the order without blinking. It cost me $400 and one afternoon. I had accepted the director-level position at the FinTech headquarters in Uptown Charlotte 6 weeks after we left Vegas. The signing bonus alone replaced everything I had ever given away, and the salary was 42% higher than Cleveland. We bought the house with 20% down, no co-signers, no favors, no strings. On the exact date Dennis turned 76, 9 people showed up to his birthday dinner at a chain steakhouse off I-71. No private room, no floral centerpieces, no champagne older than the grandkids who were no longer invited. Just paper menus, plastic booster seats, and the low hum of Friday night families who had no idea who any of them were. Meanwhile, 2,000 miles south, our new kitchen smelled like vanilla cake and buttercream. Riley wore the sparkly birthday crown she had begged for at Target. Mason was in charge of sprinkles and took the job seriously. We sang off-key, took 100 blurry photos, and ate on real plates with real food that nobody had to earn. Riley licked frosting off her thumb, looked up at me with those huge brown eyes, and said the sentence I will carry for the rest of my life. "Mommy, I never have to sit at the empty plate table again. Right?" I knelt so we were eye level, brushed a curl from her forehead, and answered the only way I could. "Never again, baby. From now on, you sit wherever you want with whoever loves you enough to make sure your plate is full first." That is the entire point of this story. You do not owe the people who hurt you a lifetime of payment just because they once fed you, clothed you, or called you family. Gratitude has an expiration date. The moment they weaponize the past to starve your future, the debt is canceled. Real family is the one that never makes you prove you belong. Real love never keeps score. Real belonging never comes with a price tag. If you are watching this and you're still paying a bill, you never agreed to still shrinking yourself to fit at a table that leaves you hungry, still waiting for people who will never see you to finally see. You hear me, close the accounts, withdraw the guarantees, change the locks, change the names if you have to. Your children are watching how you teach them to be treated. Choose the table where everyone eats. Choose the family that chooses you back. We did. And 10 months later, we have never been happier.